Phillip Clark was once a completely normal, happy person. He had a beloved wife, a nice, cozy home, a job, and everything someone needs to be happy. But many years ago, a tragedy occurred that flipped the young man's life on its head. Philip's wife died in childbirth, along with the child. After that, Phil began to drink. He lost his job, the bank took his home, and he wound up living on the street. Everyone around just called him Phil, that this homeless man rummaging in trash cans once lived a different life. Phil himself began to forget too, and after many years of homelessness, he made peace with his happiness being that he was alive, healthy, and not hungry. He had recently found an abandoned shed on the outskirts of town, which became his home where he could hide from the sun and weather. On one wonderful fall morning, Phil, as usual, went to a city dump. The guard sitting at the entrance nodded at Philip as a greeting. Considering his past, Philip was an educated man who was always welcoming, so everyone treated him well. There were a lot of broken appliances, furniture, things, and various items in the dump. He wandered the rows and stopped if he found something that might be useful and carefully placed it in his cart. But in the pile of old, half-disassembled, broken furniture, Philip noticed something he had been missing. It was a small couch. It was shabby, but stood strong on its four legs. As he approached his find, he rubbed his very messy gray beard in satisfaction. He began to carefully sit on it. Then he lay down and was very happy he wouldn't have to sleep on the ground anymore. After somehow getting the couch into his cart, he went towards the exit. He waved happily at the guard, showing him his wonderful find, to which the guard smiled and nodded. Philip managed to drag the couch to his shed, took it inside, and looked around happily. Well, he thought, it's time to try it, and lay down on his new couch. Suddenly, a dog jumped onto his chest. Exhaling heavily, he tried to get his dog off. "Alan, get off, I can't breathe!" Alan wagged his tail and jumped onto the floor, then laid down under the couch and sniffed quietly. Philip found Alan in a back street when he was still a puppy. The poor thing was left, forgotten in a corner, whining. Philip took him, warmed him, fed him, and they had been together ever since. Philip turned to his side and covered himself with this old, dirty, shabby blanket and fell asleep. However, his sleep wasn't satisfying. The couch seemed so soft and comfortable, but when he was on his side, something wooden made him spin from side to side. He couldn't take it, so he got up. He mumbled something and started feeling the fabric, looking for the reason for his discomfort. He pushed on the couch so angrily that he spooked Alan. Finally, he found the lump and used all his strength to press on it. The couch's stitching split and a spring burst through, injuring Philip's hand. He screamed in pain and angrily kicked the couch. It shook, fell down, and made a noise. Philip looked down and froze. Gold was pouring out of the couch. There was so much. Philip began to rub his eyes, thinking he was asleep. There were rings, earrings, coins, and gold candlesticks everywhere. He sat for a long time, not believing his eyes and not knowing what to do. When he got it together just a little, he put everything into his dirty bag, put the couch back, and went back to sleep. He wasn't able to fall asleep quickly. Philip dreamed about selling the treasure and using the money to buy a house with a large garden to grow vegetables. But something didn't let him rest easy. When he woke up, he went back to the dump where he found the mysterious couch and asked the guard if he knew where it came from. "How should I know?" he answered with a smirk. "Why do you care?" "I wanted to thank the owner," Philip joked. "Go ask those guys, maybe they know," he said, pointing at a car with two young men who were unloading a new set of trash. Philip said hello to the young guys and waited for them to finish before asking them about his find. One of them remembered the couch. Actually, he remembered an unpleasant old lady who had asked them to take it away. He told Philip where the house was. Not knowing what to do with that information, Philip went home. When he got home, he caught Brandon. Brandon was a little older than 30. He lost his wife 2 years ago in a car crash, and after that started helping the homeless like Philip. Once a week, he brought Phil food and gave him an arthritis shot. Brandon was a medic. After looking at the couch, he got ready for the procedure. After the shot, Brandon noticed Philip's new furniture. If you changed the upholstery and patched it up a bit, it'd look quite nice, Brandon said. Phil looked at him, quietly got up, got out the bag of treasures, and emptied it. He told Brandon everything and told him he didn't know what to do next. I think I should take it to the police. They'd give me some kind of reward. Then I'll buy a house and live like a person, Phil said. Brandon said quietly, looking between the mountain of gold and Philip. Hey, say something, Phil said, lightly slapping Brandon on the shoulder. Brandon looked, wiped his face with his hands as if not believing what he saw. Then after being quiet for another minute, he finally said, What award, Phil? You can't go to the police. You're homeless. They won't believe you. They'll say you stole it and they'll put you in jail. Phil exhaled and rubbed his gray beard and told Brandon about the old woman who threw the couch away. Maybe you should visit her and see what happened. What if she needs it and she's looking for it? It would be better to be further away from it, Phil thought out loud. So that's what they decided to do, but Brandon told Philip to stay quiet and let him talk to the old woman. The door stayed closed for a long time, and when Philip and Brandon were getting ready to leave, they suddenly heard the sound of locks moving, and an old woman's face appeared in the door, who mumbled something unpleasant. Brandon, to Philip's surprise, acted as a detective, told the woman that drugs were found in the couch she recently threw away, and wanted to hear more details. She was indignant, saying she had no idea about any drugs, and the couch came from her dead sister. But it was trash she didn't need, so she threw it away even though her niece was against the idea. She wanted to slam the door, but Brandon stopped her and asked if he could speak to the niece. She smirked and said her niece Lizzie was skating with her boyfriend and fell, injuring her spine. She was now paralyzed and living in hospice. It's been 2 months. She's done walking now, she added cruelly and slammed the door. The town was small and only had one hospice. They agreed to try there next. There was no news from Brandon for 2 days. Philip got worried. Brandon showed up at noon the next day. He said Lizzie was a beautiful and wonderful girl, and the house the old woman lived in belonged to Lizzie after her mother's death. After the accident, her boyfriend left her, and her aunt sent her to hospice. And, most importantly, they could help Lizzie. Brandon talked to the attending doctor and said that if they operated, Lizzie might walk again. But the surgery would be expensive, he finished. Phil quietly got out the bag of gold and gave it to Brandon. Brandon looked at Philip, trying to see some sadness or regret, but Philip's eyes sparkled and his face stretched into what seemed like a happy smile. Take it. What are you waiting for? The old man said. Brandon lingered. He didn't know what to do. He looked at Philip uncomfortably, thinking about how he dreamed of a home with a garden. Philip seemed to read his mind and said, Well, this belongs to Lizzie legally. It isn't mine. And I have everything I need. He put one hand on his heart and hugged Alan with the other. Brandon was in tears. He hugged the old man tightly and didn't let go. You're an incredible person. The absolute best I've ever known. No, you're the best person in the world. Brandon didn't have the words to express himself. Forget it, I'm just me, Philip said shyly, a little embarrassed. 6 months passed. Lizzie's surgery was successful, and after rehab, she could walk again. Brandon and Lizzie fell in love and got married 4 months later. Lizzie made her angry aunt leave her house. She then gave the rest of the money to Philip so he could buy himself a small home. It was on the edge of town, but Philip loved that. There was a forest and small pond nearby, and now he has his own garden. This gray, life-weary old man once again became Phillip Clark, a person who had everything he needed to be happy.